All right, Shalom, everybody. Let me turn this up a little bit. Today is a good day where all the games are on, the championship Sunday, the major games are on. And this is also the Shabbat. So I choose to, instead of getting on my favorite team's channel, favorite team's spot, doing other things, I choose to go ahead on with this Bible study, even though that's my favorite team. We gotta, sometimes you have to really, you really have to count the cost, When it says, not doing your own will or thinking your own thoughts, what would you do? Would you watch your favorite team on the Shabbat and then wait till the Shabbat that is open and go back to the Shabbat? Anybody that loves Yahawah basically would, their favorite team was playing the Super Bowl. They would have to really, cancel that Super Bowl out at least until the Sabbath is over with. And this is more important. What's more important is Yahawah. All right. To be honest with you, what's more important is Yahawah. Anybody that says it's not is in for some big surprises. All right. What I mean by that is that when we see what was all so important in life at the end, you'll wish that you basically obey Yahawah. All right. I don't want to get to that point. I already know. We just don't see it right now. When it's all said and done, we're better off obeying Yah's commandments, doing exactly like he said to do it. Because to be honest with you, the warfare that's against our people, the spiritual warfare that's against our people, it's very clever, it's very slick, it's masterly minded, that we would be sitting around watching a football game on a Shabbat day. And don't get me wrong, I believe that Apostle Paul spoke about athletic competitions, in his writings. And he had to attend to some of that in order to know something about it, to bring it out. Running in a race, everybody runs all the people, only one is stuff like that. Because those things was out back then, the Olympiads, Olympics. But these Olympics, these Olympiads had something to do with false God worship. That's what was going on during the. Somebody got some room. You want to meet your got some loan back there. I want to meet your.
I gave it to him unless he spit it out. Well, he's supposed to be taking a nap, so it doesn't matter. You're going in there to play your game.
Let me see if I can mute it before. Okay. But anyway, a lot of the warfare that's against our people, like the Maccabees, had the Zeus Olympics. All right, they was worshiping Zeus. But what they was doing athletic stuff. And their athletic competitions were different from ours. They were naked. All right. They was naked. The Olympics, the sports arena today got clothes on, but still to a certain degree, it's still the same thing. Not that everybody's sitting around watching people just because they look halfway naked. I know I'm not. I do have a favorite team, and it's been that way since I was a kid. My favorite team is my favorite team since a kid in football. Basketball, I usually have a favorite player. So I could have San Francisco, Golden State could be my favorite team one year. 76 is going to be my favorite team the next year because I'm going by players. Dr. J was my favorite player as a kid. So I was a 76ers fan till he left and Charles Barkley and them was stood up, and then that was not my favorite team no more. All right. Then I was a Bulls fan, Michael Jordan. But in football, I have one team. That team could be horrible for years. That'd be my favorite team still. I would not be trying to play it off saying, no, this is my favorite team, but it's not, this is really my favorite team over here. I don't do that. But anyway, but as you can tell, my favorite team now is really starting with the good quarterback they have. It's starting to really rise to the top. It might stay that way. Because I remember the New England Patriots was horrible for years. When they got Tom Brady, that's when they became a different team. And a lot of times that's the way teams are. You get a right leader, a perfect leader, then you're gonna have a winner. You know, especially the teams now. It's a quarterback-driven league. Let me get off of this topic anyway. It's quarterback-driven league. So back in the days, it was running backs. In the days of Pittsburgh Steelers, Franco Harris and all of that. Running backs, if you had a good running back, there's a chance you could be a winner. But anyway, we want to make sure that we observe Yah's Shabbat days. We don't want to be like our ancestors. And like I said, a lot of these things that come from Western culture, the Olympics, the sports arena, sports things, are coming from worshiping the false gods, believe it or not. Basketball, football, you know, they're connected to worshiping false gods. All right, so we have to be very aware of these things. All right. Now, today wasn't the Shabbat day. I'd probably be watching the game right now at the moment. But we have to watch these things, all right? And, you know, they're literally trying to take your, not just your life physically, they're trying to take your spiritual life, all right? Your spiritual life is what they're trying to take, okay? And, but it's the Shabbat day again. And we're gonna get on here and talk some topics on what's going on spiritually, especially with our people. Okay. Now lately, you know, my dialogue is not just that we're Hebrew Israelites, which we are, that we the Hebrew Israelites, we are. But I kind of want to go a little further than that because I was way back in the early 1990, realizing we were these people. You know, and it's been 30 years. And I'm not saying like, you know, like I'm mockingly saying, where's the promise of his coming? Since the fathers fell asleep, all things continue as they were from the beginning. No, you know, most Hebrew Israelites that are trying to wake up their people are doing a very good service for their people. But with me, it's a little different than just trying to wake us up to our identity, because some of the people that now that we talk to know we Hebrew Israelites. Where do you go from there? It's keeping the commandments. So that's one of the things that we do. And I go by the major commandment of all. Hear, O Israel, Yahawah Elohim is one Yahawah. Thou shalt love Yahawah thy Elohim with all thy heart, mind, soul, body, and strength. And the second is like unto it, thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself. Upon these two commandments hang all the law and the prophets. So it's two commandments. And I know some people think that basically you have to love your Yahawah with all your heart, mind, soul, body, and strength, and love your neighbors yourself, and you throw the whole Bible away. You know, because all the rest of it don't make any sense. All you gotta do is love both. And it doesn't make any sense. You know, I've heard people come up to me with that logic. How do you love Yahawah, your Elohim, with all your heart, mind, soul, body, and strength? That's the next question. You don't throw the Bible away. How do you, what do you do? You kiss on him and you shake his hand and you show and you sing him a few songs? Is that how you do it? Well, the Bible tells us how to love Yahawah Elohim with everything we got and our neighbor as ourselves. And it's more than just saying you love somebody. Because some people's idea of love is different from other people's idea of love. But you got to figure out what Yah calls love. Not what you think love is. It's what Yah calls love. If Yah says, if you love me, keep my commandments. What commandments then you must you keep? What must you do? You know? So that's how you got to do it. You got to find out what Yah says love is and what he wants. When he made a covenant with Israel thousands of years ago, he gave them commandments. He gave them stipulations, and they broke it. We broke it as a people. We worshiped the false God. We committed spiritual adultery against Yahawah. And they didn't know that worshiping the golden calf was going to break Yahawah's commandments. All right, then they would have had an excuse. But Yah did not give us an excuse like that. He basically told them what they must do and gave them the opportunity to agree, to accept it, or reject it. They said, all of Yahawah said we will do. And then they signed the agreement. They sacrificed the animals. And Yahawah himself came down from the mountain with a paved work of a sapphire stone at his feet. He showed up himself. All right, and didn't touch any of them. That's in Exodus chapter 24. All right, he didn't touch any of them. So that's what we was trying to get our people to realize who this Yahawah Elohim is, seeing that's the most important commandment. All right, and when I get to talking about this, I get kind of surprised. I get surprised a little bit that most of our people are not talking about Yahawah Elohim more often than not, especially the ones that know we Hebrew Israelites. Moses took the blood of this Exodus 24:8. Moses took the blood of it and sprinkled it on the people and said, behold, the blood of the covenant. But this is the original covenant. All right. Now this covenant was broken. All right. This is the blood of the covenant which Yahawah made with you concerning all these words. Then went up Moses, Aaron, Nadab, Abihu, the 70 elders of Israel. Now, if you wonder why I said this, the original covenant, well, the covenant that was broken, all right, caused us to have to go to the Aaronic covenant. All right, this covenant that Moses took blood for, it was not the Aaronic covenant. Okay, and that's what we need to understand. This is what happened here. What they agreed to the covenant, so we did agree to the covenant. All right, as a people, as a nation, we're the only people on the face of the earth that made a covenant with Yahawah. All right, and it was not the Aaronic covenant. Now you see Moses, Aaron, Nadab, Abihu, and the 70 elders of Israel, they went up on top of the mountain. All right. Let's see, chapter 24, verse 10, and then they saw the God of Israel. Let me highlight this. Hold on just a moment. They saw the God of Israel, right? And when you read this, you tell somebody when they say, well, nobody's ever saw God, right? Then what is this right here? They saw the God of Israel. So they made a covenant with this God. And when they made the covenant with him, he came and showed himself. All right. And there was under his feet as it was a paperwork of a sapphire stone, as it were the body of heaven in its goodness. Upon the nobles and of the children of Israel, he laid not his hand. Also, they saw God and did eat and drink. Now, I brought this up a few times before in previous videos, and I will continue to do so. Also, they saw God and did eat and drink. All right. I think this is what Yah was kind of sort of meaning about our relationship with him when we made a covenant with him, that he would be amongst us. All right. But I also know that when he made this covenant, he knew that they was going to break it. So he did not submit himself to Israel. Because right here it says, and Yahawah said unto Moses, come up to me into the mountain and be there. And I will give thee tables of stone and the law and commandments which I have written, that thou mayest teach them. All right. So in this original covenant, they saw the God of Israel. Now, when they broke this covenant, as you see, I think it's in Exodus 30, 31, somewhere around there, worshiping the golden calf and all of that. There was no more seeing this God of Israel. There was no more of this right here. All right. It's like they cut themselves off from him. They was cut off. And that's what caused Yahawashi, or Jesus, to have to come down and to take care of the offense. Otherwise, we wouldn't have had to have Jesus come down and die for the whole sins of Israel. All right. Now I hear Christians talking about he came down to die for the sins of the world. I agree with the Hebrew Israelites on that. He died for the sins of his people, which was the sins of that world. What world was he talking about? The sins of Israel. All right. What was the only people that ever made a covenant with God? Israel. What was the only people that needed to have that covenant that they broke restored? Israel. All right. So Yahawashi had to come down and take care of this offense that Israel did with the golden calf. They committed spiritual adultery against him. So that's the reason why it says, "Hear, O Israel, Yahawah, Elohim is one Yahawah. Should love Yahawah, the Elohim, of all your heart, mind, soul, body, and strength, and your neighbor as yourself." But the major commandment is that one about Yahawah, your Elohim, loving him with all that you got. That's the greatest commandment. All right, and that's what happened here when they worshiped the golden calf. Okay. And this got dealt with when Yahawashi died on the cross, rose from the dead. So a lot of people don't understand why Yahawashi had to come down and die. He had to die for this transgression that was done on Mount Sinai. When Aaron was a major, one of the major things, one of the major problems, put it that way, when he allowed them to use him to build the golden calf. Said they threw the gold into the fire, and out came this calf. Okay, that's what he said. And out came this calf. We watched the Ten Commandments, which will probably be on this Easter, the pagan festival of Easter coming up here. So you'll see it. You know, obviously Charleston Heston and all of them are playing it, but you know, they do have that in there. Moses asked them, "What have you done?" He said, "Well, they threw the gold and silver into the pot, and out came this calf." But that right there was a sign that Aaron would be the one that has to be the priest. So what God did is that he went plan B. At first, there was no Aaronic priesthood. Then he made an Aaronic priesthood when plan B made Aaron and his sons the priests. Was Aaron and his sons the priests before this transgression? No. As you can see, there was no Aaronic priesthood and the God of Israel showed up. All right. So Aaron became the priest and his sons all the way up until the time of Christ. And he still was kind of corrupt. And some of those priests weren't even Aaron's seed. Okay. They weren't even his seed. They would sell the priesthood and all of that, you know, political purposes. The Romans had everything involved, had all of their politics involved in the priesthood. And it looks like Yahawashi was the high priest of his own execution, of his own sacrifice, because he was a sacrifice. All right. He was a sacrifice. And he showed up, from what I hear, he showed up at his trial when they arrested him in the Garden of Gethsemane and took him away to Caiaphas and Anna's house and started asking him questions. He was wearing a high priestly outfit. And that's what the Roman soldiers gambled over when he was on the cross. And it was a very expensive robe. didn't have a seam in it. It was a high priest robe that had the top where the rest of the robe would not tear. Habergeon or something like that is what it's called. But he was wearing a high priest robe all the way up until his cross, all the way up until they crucified him. So basically what he's saying is that he had the high priest his own sacrifice, because he was the Lamb of God, and every time a lamb or whatever was sacrificed, the high priest would have to stand. He would stand until the sacrifice was over with, all right? So basically, you know, there's a lot of things that's going on. You might not understand that, but every high priest, whenever somebody would bring a lamb or a goat in for a sacrifice, the one that would oversee the sacrifice would have to stand until the sacrifice is over with, then they could sit, all right? So we see Yahawashi wearing a high priest robe. So what was he wearing that robe for? Because there was a lamb being sacrificed, see? And he was the lamb. And the people that was in there as high priest cannot be trusted as being the high priest over his sacrifice. We'll go on, and that's some deep stuff. All right. It's very deep. But it's the truth. So he died standing up. He stood up. They gambled over his clothes. And it's very expensive stuff. All right. That's the reason why he died. It's because he wanted to make, God had it for him to make this breaking of the covenant right. He had to make the breaking of the covenant right. Okay. Thing is, there's been 2,000 years since that sacrifice. So what are we waiting on? Obviously, Israel has to return. They have to bethink themselves and return to the covenant. All right. And I think that's what Yah's waiting on. But the major commandment, what is the major commandment? Hear, O Israel, Yahawah, is one Yahawah. This is where we've been talking about lately. Is that this God right here, like I highlighted, Exodus 24:10, it's all the God of Israel. Now, is this God that right here in Exodus 24 that came down to sign the covenant that Israel made with him from the very beginning, is he going to show back up again? Like I said, I used to believe that Jesus was God, right? And there's a lot of people, even in the Hebrew Israelite community, that are just like me, you know, and I don't fault them. But Jesus was the Son of God. And what's the difference between the Son of God and God is that some people say, well, the Son of God existed forever. No, he didn't. He'll tell you right off the bat that he said, and this is eternal life. Let me go there really quick. Show you that the Son of God didn't exist forever. But I used to believe that. I sure did. And so there's a lot of deception, a lot of stuff going on that's not true. Biblical scriptures, and especially with the heathen, that got a hold to the Bible and put their spin on stuff. And since we went into slavery under these people that didn't know that they weren't the Israelites. And they told us we weren't the Israelites after a few generations because we knew who we were at first. But they retaught us the scriptures. All right. But right here, John 17:3 says, and this is life eternal, that they might know thee, the only true God. Now Jesus is praying right here. All right, Yahawashi is praying to the Father. If he is God himself, why is he doing praying to God? And there's times I heard this and I was trying to figure out why this is going on and everything. But anyway, I was wrong. It's true left shoe. I confess. I didn't know why it was that Jesus was praying to God when he's God. But this is the life eternal, that they may know thee, the only true God. See that? The only true God. And then it says, in Jesus Christ, whom thou hast sent. So the only true God sent Jesus Christ. They didn't say Jesus Christ was the only true God. See, he was sent. I have glorified thee on the earth. I have finished the work which thou hast given me to do. So he was sent to do a work by somebody that's greater than him. And what I already know is that when you come down here, verse 5, now, O Father, glorify thou me with thine own self, with the glory which I had with thee before the world was. So what happened? Well, Yahawashi was created before the world was. Okay? Before the world. And that word world is before the world, the system of the world. Let me see here real quick. Like the earth is one thing, the world is another thing. So what's the difference between the earth and the world? Well, the earth is what was created. The world is a system. 2889, I think. It's the orderly arrangement. So when it talks about the world, it's talking about the orderly arrangement. You know, just like when you go outside the door, there's war, there's order, there's laws. The orderly arrangement, that is decoration, by implication, the world in a wide or narrow sense, including its inhabitants. All right, or adorning the world. It's not the earth. All right. Now, Father, glorify thy me with thine own self, which I had with thee before the world was. All right. So he was created before the world was. He was created before the earth was, as a matter of fact. Be honest with you, Jesus was created before the earth was in existence. Okay. And with him, Yah used him to create the earth, the heavens and the earth, as a matter of fact, excuse me. Like Genesis chapter 1 says, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. All right. And you have to know that first verse in Hebrew. You have to know that in Hebrew to get it. All right, because in the Hebrew, it doesn't say in the beginning God created the heavens and the earth. It says Bereshit, bara. In other words, in the beginning, he created. The word bara means he created. And the next word is Elohim. So he created Elohim. That means he created some beings that was Elohim. That's when Yahawashi was created. And this, after he created Elohim, this Yahawashi, Yah used him to create the heavens and the earth. All right. Now, sure, he's the firstborn of all creatures, but that doesn't mean he's God. And it really, something like that, just as simple as that, about Jesus being God. In the end, it could be idolatry. It could be breaking Yah's commandments. Yeah, believe it or not. That's why I'm glad he got a hold to me and explained to me, hey, he spoke to me, he said, I'm not God. Now, why didn't he tell me this years ago? I got an idea. Because a lot of the scriptures, a lot of the things really didn't matter. Because Yah used him, and in actuality, that scripture right there says, and now, Father, glorify me with thine own self with the glory which I had with thee before the world was. And as I explained it before, and when Yah created Yahawashi, he put him on. That's why he said, glorify thou me with thine own self with the glory which I had with thee before the world was. So Yah, how did Yah create the heavens and the earth? He put Yahawashi, he created him and put him on and created everything. So he's a garment. And this is glory for Yahawashi. That's the reason why he was created. That's the reason why he was sent to die for the sins of the world, because he's the first thing that Yah created. It's the first thing Yah created, and he created everything else with him. So he would be the one that comes down to die for the sins of his people. All right? But that doesn't mean he's God. So we stay on this topic about who Yahawashi is, because it's important. It is important. All right? Very important. Because like I said, Yahawah got a hold of me, and I'm glad he did. If I had said, no, I still believe that Jesus is God, and guess what would happen? I would have started sinning, breaking Yah's commandments. Okay? Now, if he hadn't come to me and said, I'm not God, I might have an excuse, If you would say, why did you believe that I was God, or believe that he was God, and all of that, I might say, well, the scriptures. That's as best as I could come about it, I have an excuse. But since he came to me and spoke to me and said, I'm not God, then right off the top, then I got not only doctrine to prove that what he said was correct, I get myself out of a situation of sin. I get out of that situation. And everybody that's listening to me gets out of the situation. All right? Everybody listening to me that don't want to sin and worshiping something other than God, the creature rather than the creator. If you're listening to this and you believe it, then you got yourself out of there. And that's a good thing. If you're going to be a teacher or whatever, you want to lead people to not sinning. And I think that the major commandments, especially you got to have, is, we know about fringes, wearing fringes and all of that, and keeping the commandments and the holy days and all of these things. But what's the major commandment? Yahawah Elohim. You should love him with all your heart, mind, soul, body, and strength. So it's not saying that the other commandments are not that important. All right. But for one thing, if you're gonna obey, if you're gonna love Yah, keep his commandments and love him, I think to have a mind upon him, who he really is and who he really ain't, it's good to know. You know what I'm saying? It's good, how can I put it? Like the scripture says, study to show thyself approved unto God, a workman that needs not to be ashamed, rightly dividing the word of truth. All right. So in the end, in judgment day, you could be ashamed. All right. Now I've always tried to go over the top and find out the truth, and my walk and my study. Now I've been in error, but I'm glad that I went the way I went, in the direction I went. And I'll tell you what, if I'm in error about something, and y'all reveal it to me, I tell everybody. Like I'm telling you now. All right. And I heard a Hebrew Israelite talking with another Hebrew Israelite the other day on the video, a female woman, and she was talking about the same topic. I don't know whether she believes the same thing we believe or not, but the brother that was the head Hebrew Israelite that was on the video was trying to tell her that God sometimes would send somebody in his stead. And he was trying to explain why Jesus is Yah's representative of him. And she was trying to say that I think you're putting Jesus a little bit more higher than what you should. But he was trying to bring up the topic that that God always sent somebody like a Moses or whatever. And that was the excuse. Whichever way it goes, she had a point. I don't know what she believes and all of that. She had a point that if you're worshiping a Trinity, you're a Hebrew Israelite, you're breaking Yahawah's commandment. You're breaking his commandments. And I hate to say it, it's serious. And we're in the latter days right now. When he comes, he's gonna judge by fire. And for me to try to cut this thing, make it lighter than what it is, it would be wrong. But the judgment of God, knowing the terror of God, I persuade people. God is terrible, You don't want to play with it. But for those that are with him, that are serving him, that are obeying him, he's a joy when he comes. He's coming to save you. All right. But for those that are playing with him and joking around and not on their P's and Q's with God, that where they should, he's a terror. You don't want to play with him. You know what I'm saying? You want to fear him. You want to fear him. Fearing God is a normal thing for the saints. Fearing. All right. But there's no Trinity. There's no oneness Pentecostalism. You know, I think T.D. Jakes had a point. He was, some of his doctrines that God is the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit, but there's no Trinity. That means God is who he wants to be. And I used to think that was the truth. Well, he's the closest one that I found to be in the truth. But in actuality, that's not who God is, because Jesus is not God. Okay? He's the Father. The Father is God. And Jesus called the Father God. Right here. And now, O Father, glorify thou me with thine own self. So Jesus is waiting to be glorified by this God right here, this man right here. Now, Father, glorify thou me. Now, let me take you to, let me see over here. Just a moment. Get this out of the way real quick. All right, let's see. Let's show you something real quick. When we talk about these things, what is Antichrist? Jesus is Christ. What is Antichrist? We say somebody that denies him, right? Let's check this out real quick. Because that's what will be in a lot of days, Antichrist. All right. 1 John 2:22. Who is a liar but he that denies that Jesus is the Christ? He's a liar, right? He is Antichrist that denieth the Father and the Son. Now, I want you to look at this really good. What is Antichrist? Antichrist denieth the Father and the Son. So that means is the Father Christ? All right. You have to think about this now. Is the Father Christ? It says Father and the Son. Now this right here can get kind of confusing, like I was for years, trying to put this together and make it make sense. All right, unless you understand the scriptures that says that the one that sits on the throne in heaven, let me go there real quick. Revelation chapter 4. After this, I looked and behold, a door was open in heaven. And the first voice which I heard was of the trumpet talking with me, was said, come up hither and I will show you which thing must be hereafter. And I'll show you things which must be hereafter. And immediately I was in the spirit, and behold, a throne was set in heaven. one set up on the throne. And he just sat up on the throne like jasper and a sardine stone. And there was a rainbow round about the throne and it sat like unto an emerald. So this is God right here. Now, most of the brothers and most of us Hebrew Israelites, we don't talk about God sitting on the throne. All right? We talk about Christ. He's taking the book out of the hand of the one that's sitting on the throne in Revelation chapter 5. Revelation 5, verse 7, he came and took the book out of the right hand of him that sat upon the throne. And when he had taken the book, the 4 beasts and the 24 elders fell down and before the Lamb, having every one of them harps and golden bells full of odors, which are the prayers of the saints. They sung as it were a new song, saying, Thou art worthy to take the book and open the seals thereof, for thou wast slain and hast redeemed us to God by thy blood out of every kindred, tongue, and people and nation. All right. So they sung a new song before this Lamb that took the book out of the right hand of the one that sat on the throne. Has made us unto our God kings and priests, and we shall reign on the earth. And I beheld and heard a voice of many angels round about the throne, and the angels and the elders, and the number of them was 10,000 times 10,000 and thousands and thousands, meaning millions, saying with a loud voice, Worthy is the Lamb that was slain to receive power, riches, and wisdom, and strength, and honor, and glory, and blessing. Now this Lamb is going to be glorified, like he already prayed in John 17, we was just talking about. And every creature which is in heaven and on earth, and under the earth, and such as that are in the sea, and that are in them, heard I say, and blessing and glory and honor, power be unto him that sitteth on the throne, and unto the Lamb forever and ever. And excuse me. Gotta go. Excuse me, y'all. And the 4 beasts said, Amen. And the 4 and 20 elders fell down and worship him that lives forever and ever. Yeah, this cold is going around. It's really gotten. Let me read that again. And the 4 beasts said, Amen. And the 4 and 20 elders fell down and worshiped him that liveth forever and ever. So right here, in Revelation chapter 5 and Revelation chapter 4, they worshiping it. Who they worshiping? They're worshiping the one that sits on the throne, not the Lamb. They recognizing the Lamb. The Lamb has glory, but he's not God. All right. He's not God, but he has glory. All right. And as we can see, that this one sits on the throne. And we can see right here in Revelation chapter 7. We're talking about the ones that got the white robes on, sitting up before the throne. All right. And John asked, the elder asked John, what are these that are arrayed in white robes? All right. John says, Sir, thou knowest. And he said unto him, send unto me, these are they which are that come out of great tribulation, and have washed their robes and made them right in the blood of the Lamb. Let me highlight this real quick. Come out of great tribulation, including the stuff that we go through on a regular. You will not get the kingdom. What's that? Give me something to drink real quick. You will not get the kingdom without going through. All right. What I mean by that doesn't mean that you have to go through a lot of, rejection as far as being a believer. You're going to go through tribulation just for being a Hebrew Israelite in this world system. Okay. That means the whole system is set up against you. Right? Yeah, a little bit of that. Whole system is set up against God's people, including the cold that I got right now. The issues that I'm going through is tribulation. If I was to say it wasn't, I'd be lying to you. All right? Thanks. Let me see if this calm this little cough down a little bit. All right. I said unto him, Sir, thou knowest. And he said unto me, These are they which came out of great tribulation, and have washed their robes, made them white in the blood of the Lamb. All right. So this key right here to this is great tribulation. This is something we don't want. But this is something, if you're going to get the kingdom, you're going to go through great tribulation. Right? Great tribulation. I know that most of the people sitting there and listening to me want the kingdom. Well, you're going to have great tribulation. But recognize that this kingdom lasts forever. And the glories of the kingdom, the tribulation that we go through is not going to be worthy to compare to the glories of it. All right? Let me go on. Therefore are they before the throne of God and serve him day and night in his temple. He that sitteth upon the throne shall dwell among them. Did you hear that? He that sitteth upon the throne, we just talking about the one that we saw, Revelation chapter 4, sitting on the throne. In Revelation chapter 5, the Lamb took the book out of his right hand, one that's sitting on the throne with the book in his hand. He that sitteth on the throne shall dwell among them. All right. And who is he talking about dwelling among who? One in the verse 13, one of the elders answers and saying unto me, Who are these that are arrayed in white robes, and whence came they? All right. And he told him, he said, Sir, thou knowest, he said, These are they which come out of great tribulation. So this is one of the crowds. This is if you don't make the 144,000. This is what you want to be. You want to be a part of this crew at least. All right. Because the one that sits on the throne is dwelling among them. That's telling you something. Now, when he dwells among the people, all right, he's not they're not going to be up in heaven. He didn't make heaven for the people. All right. He made the earth for men. He made the earth. He created man from the dust of the ground and made him to dwell on the earth. All right. So when people say, oh, they're up in heaven, like some of the Gentile or heathen Christians saying they're up in heaven, he's dwelling with them up in heaven. No, that's not what it's saying. He's dwelling with them on earth. He said upon the throne shall dwell among them. They shall hunger no more, neither thirst any more, neither shall the sun light on them anymore, nor any heat. All right. The Lamb was in the midst of the throne shall lead them, shall feed them, lead them unto living fountains of water, and God shall wipe away all tears from their eyes. This God, it sits on the throne, is going to come down. All right. It's coming down. You know? And I can understand the heathen saying that that's not going to be so, right? Saying, no, that we're going to have a rapture of the church and we're going to be with God in heaven for 7.5 years and come back down. And the Lamb will be with us, not God. The heathen that say stuff like that really are talking more to an antichrist crowd. But remember, Antichrist denies the Father and the Son, right? Let's go there again real quick. 1 John chapter 2, verse 22. So in the latter days, the Christians, what we call as Christians, will deny the Father and the Son. All right. So that's what Antichrist really is. But these people would say that they're not Antichrist. Why? Because they don't deny the Son. Since the Son is sent by the Father, they're not denying the Father or the Son. But in actuality, in the latter days, the scripture says they would deny the Father and the Son. That is called Antichrist. So that means that this Father that sits on the throne would be some type of Christ. All right. Let me take you back there a little bit real quick. Let me take you back there real quick to Daniel chapter 9, I think it is. Daniel 9:25. Know therefore and understand from the going forth the commandment to restore and build Jerusalem unto Messiah, the Prince, shall be 7 weeks, 62 weeks, and the street should be built again and the wall in troublous times. And really, to be honest with you, when I study this, you really want to put this in proper context. This hasn't happened yet. All right? Mashiach the Prince hasn't happened yet. So what are we waiting on? Waiting on Mashiach the Prince. Now remember, we just was talking about the Father also has to be Christ also. Because the Antichrist denies the Father and the Son. So this Mashiach the Prince that comes after 7 weeks right here, that hasn't happened. All right. So Mashiach the Prince. And after 62 weeks shall Messiah be cut off. All right. What is this right here? Because it gives us two forms of time periods. It gives us 7 weeks and 62 weeks. All right, it's 2 different time periods. Some Bible scholars and representatives add the 7 weeks and the 62 weeks together and come up with 69 weeks. But if the angel wanted you to add those together, he would have done it his own self. He would have gave you 7 weeks and 62 weeks. So there's 2 different time periods. There's something going on there. 2 different time periods. And it calls both of these messiahs, it calls the Mashiach the Prince and Messiah is 2 different things. Mashiach the Prince comes after 7 weeks, and then it says Messiah after 62 weeks will be cut off. Is that talking about the same person right here? They don't call him Mashiach the Prince down here. After 62 weeks shall Messiah be cut off. And we know who that is that was cut off after 62 weeks, which is something like 400 some years after they come out of Babylon. He came up, he died on the cross almost exactly to the day of that 62 weeks. But what about this person right here, Messiah the Prince? It says he comes after 7 weeks. 7 weeks from what? So there has to be 2 times that Jerusalem is rebuilt, and the commandment goes forth to restore and build Jerusalem. There's 2 different periods of time. This one has to be in the latter days right here, this Messiah the Prince. All right. This one has to be in the latter days right here. What I mean by that is that when we see the 4 kings in Daniel chapter 7, first year Belshazzar, king of Babylon, Daniel, had a dream and vision of his head upon his bed. Then he wrote the dream and told the sum of the matters. The Daniel spake and said, I saw in my visions by night, behold, 4 winds of the heavens drove upon the great sea. And 4 great beasts came out of the sea, diverse one from another. So we know that these four beasts came out of the sea, representing these ruling empires that would come down, that would be on the earth all the way into the latter days. We got Babylon, which shows up as a lion. And the lion had eagle's wings, and beheld till the wings were plucked. He was made to stand up, lifted up from the earth, and made to stand on his feet as a man. And the man's heart was given into it. And then we saw a second beast like a bear, and it was lifted up on one side, had 3 ribs in the mouth between the teeth of it. And then the voice said, "Arise, devour much flesh." So all of these we see there's a bear, there's a leopard with 4 wings, 4 heads. We know Alexander the Great. And then the 4th beast was this eagle or this dragon type creature, which we know to be the Roman Empire. All right. But after this dragon, this Roman Empire, this beast that represents Rome, which happens all the way up until the latter days, which is really Edom. Edom is running that beast right there, which he also ran Alexander the Great's kingdom too, which is the Grecian kingdom. But in the latter days, it was the Roman would take it to the max. They've been to fill the whole earth. How did it say it? They tread down the earth and everything? Let me see if I can go back there. And it's all the way until the end. I saw in the night vision, behold, a 4th beast, dreadful and terrible, strong and exceeding great iron teeth. The fire brake in pieces and stamped the residue with the feet of it. It's diverse from all the beasts which were before it. They had 10 horns. All right. So this beast is still reigning. It has a little horn, which I think has something to do with the papacy, the Pope. All right. But what happens after that? Well, I beheld till the throne was cast down, and the Ancient of Days did sit. Could this Ancient of Days be that same one that Mashiach the Prince? All right. So this Ancient of Days did sit, whose garment was white as snow, hair of his head as pure wool. This is the one that sits on the throne up in heaven, right? Now some might, like I used to think, would God have to be manifested as a human being in the earth in order to come down here? So we just saw in what is it? Not Acts. Exodus chapter 24. This God of Israel came down with a paper of a sapphire stone under his feet. All right. How's he going to do it this time? How's he going to do it with his people? Obviously, this is the God of Israel, one that sits on the throne. The key to all of this is that this God, this Ancient of Days, right? Ancient of Days. He seems the one that we think that's going to be him, or what Bible scholars have described as the one that comes in the latter day, which many people think is Jesus, Yahawashi. And Jesus is coming back. But is Jesus the Ancient of Days? No. He's not the Ancient of Days, because right here it says in Daniel chapter 7, verse 13, I saw in the night visions, behold, one like the Son of Man came with the clouds of heaven, and came to the Ancient of Days, and they brought him there before him. So if that's what Jesus was, the Ancient of Days, well, then who is this right here, the Son of Man coming before the Ancient of Days? In Daniel chapter 7, verse 13. This one is Jesus right here. All right. So that's what Christians are waiting on. But before he comes down, before the Ancient of Days does judgment. He does judgment. He judges the system that's reigning over his people. Now, does he come down from heaven to do it? I think he basically has manifested himself with his people just like Jesus did. The scripture says that this Jesus, the Son of Man right here, is the express image of the person of the Father. And if the Father is Christ also, that means that he would have to be a savior of his people. That's what Christ is. A Messiah is like a savior of his people, of God's people. So the Father would be a Savior. Okay. Let me see. Let me go here real quick. Because even the Son spoke about not knowing the day or the hour at the coming. What coming of the let me see. Hold on just a moment. The Son even said that no one knows in heaven the angels nor the Son, but my Father only. When the disciples asked him right here, when they would come together in Acts chapter 1, verse 6, will you at this time restore again the kingdom to Israel? So he's asking Yahawashi, will you at this time restore the kingdom again to Israel? He said to them, it's not for you to know the times of the season which the Father has put in his own power. So it's the Father that knows, and he even speaks about, what is that in is that Mark chapter 13, Drake? Where he speaks about the man taking a long journey? Let's see. I think it's Mark 13. But of that day and hour, know of no man, Mark 13, know of no man, nor not the angels there in heaven, neither the Son, but the Father only. All right. So right here it tells you that since the Son that we all believe is Messiah, which he is Mashiach. The Bible doesn't say he's the Mashiach. It says he is Mashiach. This is after 62 and 16:2, we show Mashiach be cut off. All right. But it says neither the Son, but the Father. Now this right here is so nice to look at right here. Because it's telling you in a sense, in a runabout sense, if you know how to read this, it's telling us that the Father is the one that takes the long journey. It says for the Son of Man right here, see it's in the italics. Let me highlight this real quick. What's in italics? This right here is in italics. That means it was put in there. All right. But right here, we leave those italicized as a man taking a far journey. He left his house and gave authority to his servants. So whoever this man is has authority as servants, and to everyone his work, and commanded the porter to watch. All right. So who's the one that's on a long journey, all right, and told everybody to watch? Well, right here, it looks like as if this man that's got all of this power that took a long journey looks like he's the Father. Because let's read that again. But of that day and hour knoweth no man, nor not the angels in heaven, nor neither the Son, but the Father. Take heed and watch and pray, for you know not when the time is. Because he's telling us that the Father's coming. Because the Son doesn't know, but the Father. As a man taking a far journey, he left the house and gave authority to his servants and to every man his work. Commanded the porter to watch. Watch therefore, for you need to know when the master of the house cometh. So who's the master of the house? At even, at midnight, or cock crowing in the morning. That's coming suddenly, find you sleeping. It looks like it's talking about the one that's on a long journey. The man that's on a long journey, if you leave out that what the Son of Man is, because they put that in there, right? It's in italics. Let me take it out of the highlights here if you can see it. So whenever you see something like that that's in italics, it was not originally in there. So it looks like the Father is the one taking the long journey. And remember when Yahawashi rose up from the dead, and I think we go to Matthew 28. He rose up from the dead. Then the disciples went away into Galilee into a mountain where Jesus had appointed them. He saw them. When he saw them, they worshipped him, but some doubted. And Jesus came and spake unto them, saying, all power is given unto me in heaven and earth. So what? Check this out. Let me go back here again. Let me try to slow this down. Jesus came and spake unto them, saying, all power is given unto me in heaven and earth. All right. Now, who had power already in heaven and earth? The Father, right? Yahawah. Now, we know that Jesus is not Yahawah, but for some reason, he's given all power in heaven and earth. We just read that as a man taking a far journey and commanded his servants to watch and all of that. So who's the one that took a far journey and who's the one that was watching? Because the porter, he commanded the porter to watch. All right. Obviously, the Son was one of the ones that would be up in heaven on the right hand of the power watching. And all power would be given unto him for a particular reason. If the Father's watching everything, he has power in heaven and earth. Why did he need his Son, the one that rose from the dead, to have all power given unto him in heaven and earth? What difference does that make? That's because the Father took a journey. All right. The Father took a journey. And he gave all power unto his Son, saying why he took this journey. Let me go back there again. Mark chapter 13. This is when you want to, not everybody's meant to be a Bible scholar or teacher, but when you find out things like that, everybody needs help on scriptures. Even the best Bible scholars need some type of help on understanding. All right. But when you talk to people about the Bible and what you believe, you want to pay close attention to the Bible scholars, the ones that you really trust, and want to make sure that they are really crossing their I's, crossing their T's, and dotting their I's on it. All right, because if they are walking in darkness too, you're going to be walking in darkness with them. But this right here is telling us something, right? Let me see. Hold on just a moment. Coming to the Son of Man. No one knows the day nor the hour, neither the angels in heaven, nor the Son, nor the Son, but the Father. As a man taking a far journey, he left his house and gave authority to his servants. To every man his work, and commanded the porter to watch. Watch therefore, for you know neither when the master of the house coming. So the only one that knows when the master of the house is coming is the Father. And that right there should tell you who's the master of the house. Who's the man that took the far journey and left people in charge? Why did Yahawashi have all power in heaven and earth given unto him? If that belonged to the Father. The Father had it held down from the very beginning anyway. So what's going on? Let me explain it in a nutshell. The one that's coming down here on the long journey for the last 2,000 years has been on a long journey. It's the Father. All right. And the ones that he commanded to watch, the angels and the Son of Man, was the Son of Man that said that all power given unto me in heaven and earth. He's the major one that was given all power, that was told to watch. He was given all power to watch. All right. So basically, in a nutshell, the Father took the long journey. He gave authority to his Son and to the angels to watch in heaven and on the earth. Yeah. So watch, he said, watch therefore, for you know not when the master of the house cometh, at even or at midnight or at the cock or in the morning. Not even the Son knows, nor the angels in heaven. But who's the one that you're watching for? Who's the one that's coming? It's the Father. All right. But if you listen to The heathen, the Gentiles, they will say it's Jesus is coming. Let's go back here. And I'm not saying Jesus ain't coming. He is coming, but not before the Father. Because the Father knows when the day and hour is coming. He's the one that establishes the kingdom. And when he establishes the kingdom, then he gives his son authority. Let's go back here. So with Rome's reign. So basically what you got, Rome being reigning, and Rome is really Edom, it's Esau. They reign over the world still to this day. All right. Excuse me. Get some more of this water, this juice, excuse me. So Rome, which is Edom, is reigning over the world. Here's a kicker. They don't tell you what happened right here. But it says, I beheld till the thrones were cast down, the ancient of days that sit. His garment was white as snow, and the hair of his head was pure wool, and his throne was like a fiery flame, wheels as a burning fire. A fiery stream issue came forth before him, thousand ministered unto him, 10,000 times 10,000 stood before him. The judgment was set, and the book was open. They don't tell you, it's just like he just all of a sudden, it's leaped out of heaven on him, right? But I don't think he's leaping from heaven. He's coming from the earth. So just out of nowhere, the Ancient of Days comes. All right. All you see is Rome right here with the little horn. Then all of a sudden, here's the Ancient of Days. And we see the Son of Man after the Ancient of Days does his thing. Because let's see if we can read it. I'm gonna try to read it as best as I can. A fiery stream issue came forth before him, thousand minutes unto him, 10,000 times 10,000 stood before him. Judgment said, and the books were open. I beheld him then because of the voice of the great words, which the little horn, which the horn spake. I beheld till the beast was slain, his body destroyed, given to the burning flame. Concerning the rest of the beasts, they had their dominion taken away, their lives were prolonged for a season and a time. So when you really read this correctly, just out of nowhere, this Ancient of Days shows up. He judges this beast, which is Rome. Once he judges Rome, the beast, and sets that, and all the thrones are cast down. And I saw in the night vision, one like the Son of Man came with the clouds of heaven and came to the Ancient of Days, and they brought him near before him. So what happens when they bring the Son of Man, which is Jesus, near before the Ancient of Days, after he defeats these kingdoms? There's given unto him dominion, glory, kingdom, that all people, nations, languages should serve him. His dominion is from everlasting dominion, which shall not pass away, and his kingdom that which shall not be destroyed. So then basically he puts his son in authority over the nations. See? But who's the one that kicked down the kingdom? Ancient of Days. And then he puts his son over the kingdom, which his son is going to be with the saints, the believers in Christ. All right. And right here it says, I saw in the night vision, behold, one like the Son of Man came with the clouds of heaven. This is what they call the rapture of the church. Came with the clouds of heaven. And when they asked Yahawashi if he was a Messiah at his judgment, the time when he was going to get crucified and everything, he said they adjured him by God that he explained to them whether he's the Messiah or not. And he told him, he said, I am. And hereafter shall you see the Son of Man sit on the right hand of the power and coming in the clouds of heaven. This is what he was talking about right here. He's explaining that this is him. But then who is this Ancient of Days? This is Jesus right here, but who is the Ancient of Days? See? Let's go down a little further. He's talking about they beheld because of the voice of the great horn, the little horn speaking. You know, basically what would happen to him. We just saw that a few verses back. I beheld the same horn made with the saints, rebelled against them. So what is this horn? It has to be a papal power. As you already know, that the Jews in Spain and Portugal, that they did the Inquisition against the Roman Catholic Church, were Black Jews. So the Inquisition has something to do with the enslavement that happened to our people in the Americas, in Spain and Portugal. That Inquisition that happened in the 1500s. All right. That was Pope Nicholas V. That caused the Inquisition of our people, that caused us to get carried off into slavery over here. And we weren't in Africa at that time. Not the major Jews that they was bringing up as making the slaves. They weren't in Africa. They were in Spain and Portugal. Okay. And because they would not convert to Catholicism, all right, then they did the Inquisition. So I beheld in the same horn, the papal power, made war with the saints. So basically, with this slavery was really war. Okay, and it's calling these people that he made war against, that was being taken over in the Americas in the slavery, they're calling them saints. And Daniel saw this 1,000 of years previous, because these are his people. This angel is giving Daniel all of this information, what was going to happen. And I beheld the same horn made war with the saints and rebelled against them. So this right here is a prophecy about slavery. So basically the slave trade was really war. And that's what right here said, this little horn made war. Let me highlight this. Same horn made war with the saints. All right. And guess what? Until what? You see that right there? Until the Ancient of Days came and judgment was given to the saints of the Most High. So it don't tell you it's going to gradually creep on and sooner or later we're going to get the victory and all of that. No, it's just like night and day. It's just like somebody turned the light on. And that was it. I beheld that the same horn made with the war with the saints prevailed against them until the Ancient of Days came. Let's look at that word came. The Ancient of Days came. Let's see what this, see if it has any eye-opening thoughts. Because it looks like this Ancient of Days just comes all of a sudden. That means it's the little horn still prevailing against the saints. Yeah. Let's see. To become. To the Ancient of Days, what happened to it? The word is atah, Hebrew 8:58, atah. All right. And right here is from the Chaldee Dictionary, which I think is Aramaic. It's from the Aramaic, which Hebrew and Aramaic is pretty much close to the same thing. All right, it's corresponding to H 857, to become, bring. So what happens to this Ancient of Days? What makes him come? Right here it says become. See that? He becomes. All right. So what does that mean? The Ancient of Days becomes. Well, if you want me to tell you what I think about it, I've said it before. He becomes, that means there's a scripture that says God, he was, is, and is to come. All right. Now, most Bible scholars and stuff don't talk about this. But right here it says he came, Ancient Days came, and that word right there means to become. So we just took a look at it, it had to be the Father that's taking the long journey. So if Yahawashi is the express image of the Father's person, how did Yahawashi come? It came down through many generations. from Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. It came down through the prophets to David. His seed line was just, was straight all the way until it got to Joseph. Well, I think it's similar with going on with the Father coming. It's similar to what happened to Yahawashi. It's going to come down through generations, just like Yahawashi came down through generations. And he's going to, when he comes into the world, he's finally at his end, he's going to become. Let's look at that word again. So the Ancient of Days came. Right, that means to become. All right. That means to me, when I study this, what it means is that he's going to be a human being in the world. Nobody's going to know who he is in his own purpose. All right. He purposed it like that. All right. But we look at Isaiah 53, he goes through a lot of stuff, right? We know that Isaiah 53 is talking about also some of Yahawashi's sufferings, but it's not totally talking about Yahawashi's sufferings. There's somebody else in there suffering too. Because if Yahawashi, let me show you this real quick. Says that this man that would come in a lot of days, look like Yahawashi right here. He is despised, rejected of men, a man of sorrows, acquainted with grief. Acquainted with grief, right? Let's take a look at this real quick. If this is Jesus, and we know Jesus was the Lamb of God, right? And lambs in history, they had to be without spot or blemish in order for it to be effective. Holy, Hebrew 24:83. He was acquainted with grief. What does that word mean? Koli? Malady. What does malady mean? Let's see here. Melody. I got a sister named Melody. My father used to call her Melody. Let's see what he's calling it at sometimes. But anyway, Melody. Let's see here. Let's see what that means. Search with Google. Melody. Okay. Disease or ailment. Let me let you take a look at this too. As you can see, this word malady right here.
Melody. Melody.
All right, that's the word. That's meaning, well, what is called grief in the Hebrew. What is the meaning of it? A disease or ailment, an incurable malady. Now, was that Yahawashi? Because if he had to be without spot or blemish in order to be a perfect sacrifice for us. All right. In other words, here's the other meanings: similar, illness, sickness, ailment, disorder, complaint, disease, infection. All right, I think you got the point. If you're looking at it really good, you can look it up on your own. Look at the word grief. In the Hebrew, Isaiah 53. Oh, let me go back up here. Some things are just right there in front of your face. But Yahawashi could not be suffering malady if he is going to be a perfect sacrifice for his people. So who is this talking about? Let's go back there. Isaiah 53. Right here it says he's despised and rejected of men, This couldn't have been Yahawashi either, because it says that they came to get Yahawashi and take him by force and make him king. Let's see if I can find that real quick. Let's see. See if I can find that real quick. You want to help me look for that, Drake? They come to get Yahawashi to make him by force king. Okay, John 6:20-15. Let's see here real quick. Jesus, let's see. Hold on. Then those men, when they saw him, when they seen the miracle that Jesus did, said, "This is of a truth, the prophet that should come into the world." When Jesus therefore perceived that they would come and take him by force to make him a king, he departed again to the mountain himself alone. See that? When you read Isaiah 53, and it says he was despised and rejected, man of sorrows and all of that, that we rejected him and all of that. Look at this. He perceived that they would come and take him by force, make him king. That doesn't sound like Isaiah 53. Let me go back here again. Now, the little horn, if his enemy is the Father, he would have you thinking that these scriptures in Isaiah 53 is mainly talking about Jesus. But as you can see, let me go back to Isaiah 53. That Yahawashi fulfills somewhat of it. It doesn't fulfill all of that. For one thing, he was not a man. He was not a man that had malady. And it says he is despised and rejected of men, a man of sorrows. He had to run to keep them from coming to take him by force, make him king. Right? We hid, as it were, our faces from him. That doesn't sound like somebody, they coming to force him to be king. And we hid, as it were, our faces from him. He was despised and we esteemed him not. Surely he has borne our griefs and carried our sorrows, and we did esteem him stricken, smitten of God, and afflicted. Was Yahawashi looked at as being smitten, stricken of God, and afflicted? He was a spotless Son of God, Lamb of God. Even John the Baptist said, "Behold, the Lamb of God, taketh away the sin of the world." And some of John the Baptist's disciples followed him and became his disciples right after that. They followed him after he kept walking. He said, "Well, what are you seeking?" He said, "Master, what do you say? Where do you stay?" He said, "Come and see." So he was not somebody that looked like he's stricken, smitten of God, and afflicted. Right? So who is the scripture in Isaiah 53 mostly talking about? To me, it looks like the Father. It's the Father that is talking about. Because Yahawashi was a lamb without spot or blemish. He didn't have maladies. He didn't have sickness, grief, and illness and disease. So it'd be the Father, all right, that would be really smitten of God. So what's going on right here? Well, God, this person right here that's called the Ancient of Days in the scripture, the one that judges the little horn, judges the nations, the kingdoms of the earth, would have been in the world kind of like in the disguised as a as a man of sickness and sorrows and disease. All right? And he will be going through something just because of his people. But see right here, it says, what he was wounded for our transgression, he was bruised for our iniquities. The chastisement of our peace was upon him, and with his stripes we're healed. Now Yahawashi does fulfill part of this right here. Because on the cross, he did bear up under he did die for the sins of his people. All were like sheep have gone astray. We have turned everyone his own way, and the Lord has laid on him the iniquity of us all. So the major thing, this man that's suffering mostly is bearing his iniquities. All right. Now there's two types of sin that is very important in the scripture: sins and there's iniquities. What's bothering this man right here is iniquity. And that word in iniquity is Hebrew 57:71, and the word is avon. Perversity, that is moral evil, fault, iniquity, mischief, punishment of iniquity, sin. That means this man, we got Yahawashi dying on the cross for sin. He's dying as a perfect, excellent sacrifice, because if he wasn't perfect, it wouldn't have been accepted. But here's a man that's bearing Israel's iniquities. That means after Yahawashi died for them and washed them clean in his blood, they still have moral evil. They still got wickedness. And this man is suffering for it. All right, that's what's going on. He was oppressed and was afflicted, yet he opened not his mouth. Is brought as a lamb to the slaughter. The sheep before his shears is done, so he opens not his mouth. Yahawashi does fulfill that. They say there's some things in here Yahawashi fulfills, but not the whole thing. He was taken from prison, from judgment, who shall declare his generation. He was cut off out of the land of the living. And right here, if we really look at this correctly, it was talking about he was cut off out of the land of Israel, out of the covenant land. That means this man had never known his own land. And if this is the father, he's the owner. Let's see, out of the land of the living. Let me see here. Cut up out of the Eretz. Let's see if that's the word, Eretz. Yep, Eretz. He was cut off out of the Eretz of the living. That means he was, for his people's sake, he suffered that they did not have the Holy Land. Oh my goodness. So here's the one who really owns the land of Israel, who that land is really for. But because of his people being kicked out of the land, he was born out of the land. And right here, let's read that again. He was taken from prison, from judgment, and who shall declare his generation? But he was cut off out of the land of the living. For the transgression of my people was he stricken. So why was this man stricken? Let's look at this word stricken. We know Yahawashi didn't get really into this trouble until he got on the cross. Blow, figuratively infliction, also by infliction of spot. See that? So this couldn't have been Yahawashi. Yahawashi was a lamb without spot or wrinkle. Right here it says spot. Concretely a leprous person or a dress. Plague, sore, stricken, stripe, stroke. Now this right here could go with Yahawashi because he was wounded. You know, they stricken him with a cat of nine tails and all of that. But if he had a spot, that's not Yahawashi. If he was leprous, that's not Yahawashi. Right? And these things up here about a blow, spot, leprous person, plague, all of these things are first on the list. So it's letting you know it's not talking about Yahawashi fully. For the transgression of my people was he stricken. All right. made his grave with the wicked and with the rich in his death, because he had done no violence, neither was any deceit in his mouth. Now this sounds like Yahawashi right here. But the whole thing about this Isaiah 53 is mostly talking about this other man that's coming in the latter days. And it's got fulfillments of the prophecy of Yahawashi Mashiach dying for the sins of his people. Yet it pleased Yahawah to bruise him. He had put him to grief. Look at that word grief again. Let's take a look at it. Yet it pleased Yahawah to bruise him. Let's put him to grief. Look at the word grief. Kala. It means rub, to be rubbed or worn hence. Figuratively, to be weak, sick, afflicted. To grieve, make sick. So it's not talking about on the cross right here. This is a man that was in his lifetime. Let me go up here. In his lifetime, he was made sick. To stroke, flatten, entreat, beseech, disease, put to grief, to be grieved, grievous, infirm, infirmity, put to pain. So just like the Isaiah, Daniel chapter 9, it speaks about 2 time periods of commandment being given to restore and rebuild Jerusalem. One after 7 weeks, it speaks about Mashiach the Prince, and one after 62 weeks, talking about Messiah that would be cut off, and not for himself, but for his people. All right, so this is kind of similar. This whole chapter is similar to that. Okay. Yet it please Yahawah to bruise him and put him to grief. When thou shalt make his soul as offering for sin, he shall see his seed, prolong his days, and pleasure of Yahawah shall prosper in his hand. So what I get out of this is that something happens. Something happens. There's a man that's in the world, all right? There's a man that's in the world. He is really the Father, the one that sits on the throne in heaven. Okay? No one would know it. No one would even imagine it, because we have a system that's ran by the little horn that tells us that this God that we're looking for and waiting on him to return is Jesus Christ. When in actuality, this man that's really coming on his way is the God and Father of Jesus Christ. All right? And he is not coming just as a righteous individual. He's coming as a man of faith. He's coming as the creator. He's the one that existed in heaven and created everything, created Yahawashi Mashiach, all right? But you would never know that this is him. That's what's going on. And it's hidden in such a manner. And when he comes, he's going to go straight and get to the heart of the matter, okay? And we see when he comes, all right? When he comes, he's going to have mercy. While he's in the world, he's having mercy on Jacob's dwelling places. But we see in Joel chapter 3, I was showing my son that the other day, that when it says, I will have mercy on Jacob's dwelling places, all right, it's not talking about having mercy on Jacob yet. It's talking about you're going to have mercy on Jacob's dwelling places. That means the land that Jacob would live on, he's going to start showing mercy on the land. That's what we see today going on over there in Israel. God is basically restoring the land. Right here in Joel chapter 3, for behold, the days come, that behold, in those days and at that time when I shall bring again the captivity of Judah and Jerusalem, I will gather all nations and bring them down to the valley of Jehoshaphat and plead with them there for my people, for my heritage Israel, whom they have scattered among the nations and parted my land. So who is this speaking? This has to be that God that comes down, right? Comes down and is born, and he becomes. What happens? He becomes himself again. He becomes the God that has all that power in heaven and earth, you know. And they have cast lots for my people and given a boy for a harlot and sold a girl for wine. Let me go back up here again. Verse 2, and I will gather all nations and bring them down to the valley of Jehoshaphat and will plead with them there for my people, for my heritage Israel, when they are scattered among the nations and parted my land. He's going to basically, I think there's a scripture that says he's going to sit. You see, what is that? What does it say sit in? So he's coming to judge these nations. So this is not Yahawashi. I've heard many Hebrew Israelites saying, oh, that's Jesus, that's Christ coming. No. We see it in Daniel chapter 7 again, where it says he's going to sit. I beheld to the ancient of days came and sat. His garment is white as snow, hair like pure wool. All right. And we see it right here where he's going to sit and judge all nations in the valley of Jehoshaphat. This is him right here. Proclaim ye this among the Gentiles, prepare war. Wake up the mighty men. Let all of men of war draw near and come out. Let them come up. So who is this one right here that's telling the nations, come on up and fight? And this is not Yahawashi. And if it is, show me how that's Yahawashi. When you see the Ancient of Days coming, he wages war, he judges, and then the Son of Man comes with the clouds and comes before him and gets dominion, glory, and see what I'm talking about? So Yahawashi is in the position like Solomon. David first got the kingdom and he reigned and he put down all of the other nations around him. And once he was done, he gave the kingdom to Solomon. Solomon was a man of peace. Solomon didn't have to go out and fight like David did. That's what's happening right there with Yahawashi. Yahawashi is coming with the saints, and they're going to reign. They're going to, what's given to Yahawashi is basically a peaceful kingdom and domain, along with the saints, along with the body of Christ. It's given peace. All right, but the one that's waging war right here is the Ancient of Days. Proclaim ye this among the Gentiles, prepare war, wake up the mighty men, let all the mighty men of war draw near and let them come up. Beat your plowshares and the swords and your pruning hooks and the spears, let the weak say, I'm strong. Some of yourselves will come up, all you mighty, you heathen, and gather yourselves together round about. Thither cause thy mighty ones to come down on Yahawah. That the heathen be wakened and come up into the valley of Jehoshaphat, but there it is. There will I what? Sit. Now this right here will prove it right here. Let's look at this word sit in Joel chapter 3, verse 12. But there will I sit. And right there it says, there cause thy mighty ones to come down, O Yahawah. That the heathen be wakened, come up to the valley of Jehoshaphat, for there will I sit to judge the heathen round about. But look at this word sit. Cashapp, to sit down, to judge, and ambush, and quiet, by implication to dwell, to remain. All right, so basically this is the Ancient of Days. How can I say it? What's that word right there for that word? 34:27 in the Hebrew. Let's go back up here. So he's going to sit, right? Now, how's he going to cause his mighty ones to come down? Well, I've said it a few weeks ago that that when the Ancient of Days ascend into heaven, he's taking with him the 144,000 that are ready. See Daniel chapter 7. So the 144,000 you see in Revelation chapter 7, the earlier part of Revelation chapter 7, when it speaks about later on, the one that sits on the throne dwelling among the people. 144,000 from all 12 tribes of Israel. He takes them with him. They're like his army. Okay, they have the Father's name written in their foreheads and all of that. All right. So let's see. So we see the Roman Empire, which is Edom, their kingdom and their little horn. And then verse 9, Daniel chapter 7, verse 9, but I beheld till the thrones were cast down, and Ancient of Days did sit. See that? There's that word sit. Now, because it's written in Aramaic, It's not a perfect match with Hebrew. It is close because we just saw that word sit was 34 something, 3487 or something like that. This was 3488 in the Hebrew or the Aramaic. Let me try to go there real quick. Yes, the word was yashab in Hebrew. It's yashib in the Aramaic. To sit or dwell, be set. So this is the one that sits in that in Joel that we just saw, that's waging war with the nations. He's gonna sit as a judge. See, that's what that really means. So this Ancient of Days person is gonna be a judge, which he really is the ancient, he's the one that sits on the throne up in heaven. But he's on a long journey. He's on a long journey and he comes down and he judges. So what happens? Well, this is what the nations of the earth that call themselves Christians that have taken Yah's people into captivity and enslaved them and mistreated them and Jim Crowed them and all types of stuff. All right, this is their judgment. All right. Ancient Days did sit, he was garment with white as snow. And as we go back up here again, that the little horn rebelled, waged war against the saints, rebelled against them until what? I beheld still the same horn made war with the saints and prevailed against them until the Ancient of Days came. See, which he sits as judge. Till the Ancient of Days came and judgment was given to the saints of the Most High, and the time came that the saints possessed the kingdom. So does the saints possess the kingdom right off the top? No. The Ancient of Days come and judgment is given to the saints. And the time comes that the saints possess the kingdom. So there's got to be judgment first. There's got to be judgment, there's got to be war, judgment, and then the saints possess the kingdom. That's what happens. That's what we have to look forward to. All right. Now, does everybody have to know this? Even 144,000 have to know all this? I'm going to be honest with you. I think that we're in the time period where all of this stuff is coming to pass, where everybody that has studied for Yahawah, that is keeping his commandments, will know. In other words, let me stay off of that. I was going to say something. But in other words, all of the Hebrew Israelites that are out on the street corners and all of that, there's a chance that these are the ones that's going to be a part of the 144,000. All right. They're basically, excuse me, they're basically putting in they're paying their dues. These are the ones that Yah's going to have with him when he comes. We just saw that they're the cause thy mighty ones that come down, O Lord. So basically he goes up with a shout. Let me see if I can find that scripture real quick. So this God that comes down from heaven, all right, ascends. Let's see. Psalm 47:5, God is going up with a shout. Let me highlight that. And remember, the past few videos I've done, I've proven to you that Yahawashi did not ascend. He was taken into heaven. All right. So likewise, when he returns within the clouds, they brought him near before the Ancient of Days. The Ancient of Days is the one that ascends and descends. All right. God is going up with a shout. Yahawah with the sound of a trumpet. That sounds like the Feast of Trumpets. So what happens next? Well, I guarantee you that when this happens right here, this is going to be on the day of the Feast of Trumpets. Okay? Going up with a shout. Yahawah with the sound of a trumpet. All right? Sing praises to God, sing praises to our King. Sing praises. This is what this is all about. Clap your hands, all you people, shout unto God with the voice of triumph, for Yahawah Most High is terrible. So what's going on here? Is it just about somebody doing some great stuff and we're attributing it to Yahawah? No, it's literally him, right? This is him coming to judge those nations. For Yahawah Most High, and that word Most High right there, let's see. It's telling you who he is, that nobody's standing in his place for him, Yahawashi or anybody else. You're gonna see him. Most High is Elion, right? Elion, right here. It's titled Supreme. For Yahawah Most High is terrible. He is a great king over what? Over all earth. Who's the great king of all earth? Yahawah Most High. He's not saying over the heavens, because we know he reigns in heaven, but he's a great king over all the earth. Now, this is what the nations, the little horn, the Pope, and all of that, don't want you to realize. They don't want you to realize that this is what's coming for you. He should subdue the people under us. See that? Who's going to subdue the people under our people? Let me highlight this. He shall subdue the people under us and the nations under our feet. Who's going to do that? That's Yahawah Most High. He shall choose our inheritance for us, the excellency of Jacob, whom he loved. All right. Verse 7 again. For God is the king of all the earth. So who's going to be this king of all the earth in the latter days? Let me highlight it. If this don't make you happy, I don't know what will. Let's see, hold on, I'm trying to highlight this. But God is the king of all earth, sing your praises with understanding. It didn't say the Son of God was the king. It says God is the king of all the earth. See that? So that's what I'm saying. When you read these things, it's better than what you thought it was. Because see, the nations that pour water on that Spirit's fire on this word, the ones that call themselves Christians, that's trying to break down these scriptures for everybody, they're not breaking it down, because if they break it down, they have to recognize that this God is coming to judge them for what they've done to his people. Do you think they want to hear that? No. So they're going to lessen, they're going to water that down. But God reigneth over the heathen. See that? Do they want God to reign over them? They will tell you, yeah, but no, they don't. Because he's going to judge. He that leadeth in the captivity should go into captivity. He that killeth with the sword must be killed with the sword. Here's the patience and the faith of the saints. God sitteth upon the throne of his holiness. Where at? Right here on earth. The princes of the people are gathered together, and even the people of the God of Abraham. For the shields of the earth belong to God, he has greatly exalted. The shields of the earth, which is basically 144,000. So what's coming with Yahawah? 144,000. They're coming with it. Now, who are the ones that bought Yahawashi before the Ancient of Days in Daniel chapter 7? It probably is 144,000. Let me go back there one more time. Daniel chapter 7, verse 13. And I saw in the night visions, behold, one like the Son of Man came with the clouds of heaven and came to the Ancient of Days. And they brought him, let me kind of like this. And they brought him near before him. Who was the day that brought the Son of Man before him? Hold on just a moment. You know, we can say that could be angels, but I think it's 144,000. We read that again. I saw in the night vision, behold, one like the Son of Man came with the clouds of heaven. What some people call the rapture of the church. The Lord shall descend from heaven with a shout, with the voice of the archangel, and the trumpet call of God. dead in Christ shall rise first, and then we which are alive and remain shall be caught up, should meet him in the air, and so shall we ever be with the Lord. All right, what happens is they all gather together in the air, and they're being brought before the Ancient of Days. They brought him near before him. All right. And that's really Yahawashi. He represents the whole body of Christ. Everybody that's live there, they're going to be joined together in the air, in the clouds. And there was given him dominion, glory, kingdom, of all people, nations, and languages should serve him. His dominion is everlasting dominion, shall not pass away. His kingdom that shall not be destroyed. So I think it's the ancient, I think it's the 144,000 that bring Yahawashi before the Ancient of Days. Because the army, the shields are there, belong unto this God. He said, well, shame on him. Jesus died for those sins and everything. Well, we've got to remember that this Ancient of Days is the one that created Jesus. He's the one that really set this whole ball of wax in motion. That's when Yahawashi is being brought before him. We read that again. I saw in the night vision, behold, one like the Son of Man came with the clouds of heaven, and came to the Ancient of Days, and they brought him near before him. It's going to be a spectacular sight, you can imagine. Because you know that Yah has great glory. All right? You can imagine he's going to really demonstrate it in his kingdom that's coming. Like Yahawashi said, it's not for you to know the times and seasons that the Father placed in his own authority. But the disciples wanted to know what Jesus at this time restored the kingdom to Israel. He told them it's not for you to know that time that the Father put in his own authority. All right. So who's the one that got the kingdom in his hand? The Ancient of Days, his Father right here. So what we've been taught wrong, because we've been taught by people who want to see our people cast down, and had this idea that God has new chosen people and that they're the people. Replacement theology. But this God right here that we just read about, this God that goes over the shout and the Yahawah with the sound of a trumpet, he has not forgotten. All right? He has not forgotten about it. That's what the name Zechariah means, to remember, the remembered one. All right? And it's interesting. I'm telling you right now, I sit up and I have Bible study every week, and I get on this topic. And it's more than just what I've been showing you. It's all over the scriptures. All right? But I normally point out the major prophecies like Daniel, and I go to Zechariah. I don't go to Zechariah as much. As a matter of fact, let me show you something. Zechariah chapter 2 is obvious. What it's talking about. Lifted up my eyes again, and behold, a man with a measuring line in his hand. Then said I, whither goest thou? And he said unto me, to measure Jerusalem. See was the breadth thereof and the length thereof. And behold, an angel talked with me, went forth. Another angel went out to meet him, and said unto him, run, speaking to this young man, saying, Jerusalem shall be inhabited as town without walls, and a multitude of the men and cattle there. For I, saith Yahawah, will be for her a wall of fire round about, and will be the glory of the midst thereof. So right here, for I, saith Yahawah, will be unto her a wall of fire round about, will be the glory of the midst thereof. Some people think this is going to be just symbolically in Yahawah. But right here, he said he's going to be a wall of fire. Ho, come from and flee from the land of the north, saith Yahweh. For I have spread your abroad as the four winds of the heavens, saith Yahweh. Deliver thyself, O Zion, and dwelleth with the daughter of Babylon. See that? So God is not going to tell Zion and dwelleth with the daughter of Babylon to deliver herself without making it possible. But thus saith Yahweh of hosts, after the glory has he sent me unto thee, unto the nations which spoiled you, for he hath touched you, touched the apple of his eye. All right. So we see that the little horn made war with the saints and prevailed until the Ancient of Days came. For behold, I will shake my hand upon them, and they shall be a spoil unto their servants. And they shall know that Yahawah of hosts has sent me. See that? So really, this is Yahawah doing it But he's check this out. But behold, I will shake my hand upon them, and they should be a spoil to their servants. And you should know that Yahawah of hosts has sent me. Sing and rejoice, O daughter of Zion, for lo, I come, and I will dwell in the midst of thee, saith Yahawah. So who's coming to dwell in the midst of the daughter of Zion? It's Yahawah, right? It's right there. We read it again. Sing and rejoice, O daughter of Zion, for lo, I come and I will dwell in the midst of thee, saith who? Yahawah. And many nations shall be joined unto Yahawah on that day, and shall be my people. And I will dwell in the midst of thee, and thou shalt know that Yahawah of hosts has sent me. So he's Yahawah being sent by Yahawah of hosts. But is that two gods? No, it's really one. Just letting you know that this God, when he becomes, he's back at being omnipresent, all of those things, omnis and great things that he's 2 and 3 and 4 places at the same time, but at the same time, he's the same person. Let me read that again. For many nations shall be joined to Yahawah on that day, and shall be my people. And I will dwell in the midst of thee, and thou shalt know that Yahawah of hosts has sent me. And Yahawah shall inherit Judah, his portion in the Holy Land, and shall choose Jerusalem again. Be silent, O all flesh, before Yahawah, for he's raised up out of his holy habitation. So Yahawah this is not just symbolically him coming. This is really him. This is the very one that's the ancient of days. All right. But lo, I come and I will dwell in the midst of thee, saith Yahawah. And literally, it's a literal. It's kind of similar as we just saw in Exodus chapter 24. This is what he was trying to do from the very beginning. When we saw him with the sapphire stone on his feet, when they made the covenant, when he was at Mount Sinai. Then went up Moses, Aaron, Nadab, Abihu, and the 70 elders of Israel, and they saw the God of Israel, and that was under his feet, as it were a paved work of a sapphire stone, as it were the body of heaven in its clearness. All right. That's what he was trying to do back then. He was trying to dwell with the people. But the people he knew, and that's the thing about this right here, because he showed himself, but he knew that they was going to break his heart. And he did not commit. But he didn't lay his hands on any of them. It says, upon the nobles of the children of Israel, he laid not his hand. Also, they saw God and did eat and drink. So this is the reason why it didn't happen back then, because he knew. So he's omnipresent, all knowing, all powerful, all of that. He knew that they was going to worship that golden calf. But since they had not done it yet, he let them make the covenant. But they eventually broke the covenant. But this is what he was trying to do back then. This is what he's going to do in the end. They're not only going to see the God of Israel, he's going to be with them. It's like Revelation chapter 7 says, and the one that sits on the throne shall dwell among the people. So this is what's going on. But this is what the nations, the heathen, what we were just reading about, the heathen don't want you to know. The heathen don't want you to seek this God. They don't want you to know this. They don't want you to seek it. Because as long as they can stay in control over you, they will. And lately, I've been doing these videos because hopefully it'll catch on. It ain't got to be just me. Somebody hear it and say, hey, wait a minute, that makes a lot of sense. And then give it to somebody else, give somebody else more information, or they get to praying about it. Let me go back here again. Psalm 47. Most of these Psalms that David wrote about, he's talking about Yahawah. The reason why he's a man after God's own heart, because David fought the battles of Yahawah. That means the same thing that Yahawah will be going through in a classical sense thousands of years ago, David fought it. So David is seeing what Yah is going through 3,000 years later. Except he's not fighting like literally right off the top, like a battle. But David is fighting the same battles in a spiritual sense. And he's seeing it, and he's writing these songs. Or else, how does David write this? Or these sons of Korah write this? For Yahawah Most High is terrible, is a great king over all earth. What did they see? Who saw that? All right. Who saw that? He shall choose our inheritance for his excellency of Jacob, whom he loved. God is going with a shout, Yahawah with the sound of a trumpet. Right here, just going up. The one that ascends and descends is Yahawah. Means to ascend. To ascend. And remember, Yahawashi did not ascend. All right. But you ask some of our brothers that haven't studied this correctly, they would tell you, yes, he ascended. No, go back and study that a little bit better. I'm not going to judge you. Just come around. I want all the brothers to recognize that this God that's coming is the one that sits on the throne. Yes, he is. He's the one that sits on the throne. But let me tell you something, that he was despised and rejected. We hid as it were our faces from him, you know. He was full of, he had, what does it call? He's a man of grief, sorrows. He's not going to be coming out of a very great position. But he's the one that basically overcomes. And there's a scripture, I think, in Revelation, that he that overcometh how does that scripture go? Let me see, he that overcometh. Let me see if I can find it real quick. It's gonna be, let's see, hold on. Let me try this. Somebody got some bad kids, boy. They should not even have kids. All right, hold on. In Revelation 21. He that overcometh shall inherit all things. No. This is Revelation 21. And you read stuff like this, and you wonder, who is this talking about? The key thing is that it's a singular person pronoun, he. Who's it talking about? He that overcometh shall inherit all things. Now I'll be his God, and he should be my son. And it's not talking about Jesus, because Jesus is already up in the heavens. It's got it written in red right here. I wonder if they should have really wrote this in red. But he that overcometh shall inherit all things. Now I'll be his God, and he should be my son. Who's going to inherit all things? You know, inheriting all things means to inherit the earth. All right. Who is that that's going to inherit all things? Well, that's, some people would say that's talking about all of us that really are Hebrew Israelites and all of that. No, it's not, because it said he. It didn't say they, but it would have had a T right here in front of that H. They that overcome shall inherit all things. It says he. Singular personal pronoun. Who do you think that is? We've been talking about it. We've been talking about the one that's going to come in the latter days. That's the one we're talking about. He's the one who's going to inherit all things because it's already his. And I'll be his God, and he should be my son. Now, the thing about this person is that he's everywhere at the same time, but at the same time, while he's everything at the same time, he's going to have a one manifestation of himself here on earth as the God of Israel. All right. So even he himself will be called God's son. If he has a white robe on, like we saw in Daniel chapter 7, he had a white robe on, his hair like wool. Remember, the white robes were just like the ones in Revelation chapter 7, where the elder asks, what are these radiant white robes? These are they that come out of great tribulation and wash their robes in the blood of the Lamb white. That means that the Ancient of Days was with that crew of people. Came out of great tribulation. So he was even washed in the blood of the Lamb. All right, well, let me go. Let me get ready. We catch probably as soon as the Shabbat is over, we'll catch the last part of the game. Or I might want to just watch the whole thing again, on my app that I got. But anyway, I'm not going to go off into that. But as you can see, we got something coming. And it's going to be something else. All right. You study these things. And when you read the Psalms and read more of what we were just reading about. Most of the Psalms is talking about this God that's coming. Most of the Psalms that we read about is talking about this God that's coming. I was reading Psalm 71 the other day, and I was just blown away. Knowing, because sometimes we read these things, and we don't know what the heck it's talking about. And the enemy, the little horn, will want that to be unclear to us. They don't want us to be saved and delivered. Remember J. Edgar Hoover, his major problem was that Black Messiah, right? And his major problem was that he said that would face America is Black unity, right? I was reading Psalm 71. It's talking about a man who's talking about when his strength is spent. I mean, when he gets old. And I was reading this Psalm 71, and it's talking about the Ancient of Days. I don't want to read the whole thing for you right now because my strength feel like it's spent. But he's talking about the same thing that has to be the Ancient of Days. And I was surprised by it. Cast me not off in the time of old age, forsake me not when my strength faileth. For mine enemies speak against me, and they that lay wait for my soul take counsel together against me. So this man is going to be went through something. This right here is him. All right. So you read the Psalms, you can pretty much, if you listen to what I'm saying really good, you can pretty much figure out what the Psalms is talking about. The Psalms is talking about this God that's coming. Here he is right here. He's a regular human being in the earth. He's getting old. All right. And now when I'm old and gray-headed, oh God, forsake me not until I have showed thy strength to this generation and thy power to everyone that is to come. How's he going to show his strength to this generation and his power to everyone that is to come? You're going to show God's power to everyone? That means you're going to be around forever. All right. Thou which has showed me great and sore troubles shall quicken me again and shall bring me up. Look at this. That God has shown him great and sore troubles shall quicken me again and shall bring me up. Look at this word, bring me up. What do you think that word means? To ascend. Allah. So who is this talking right here in this song? Shall bring me up. Thou was just showing me great and sore troubles. Right? Shall quicken me again. Bring me up out of the depths of the earth. And it's not talking about out of the depths of the grave. out of the depths of the earth. Thou shalt increase my greatness and comfort me on every side. So this is talking about that Ancient of Days, brother. Showing you that he's not somebody just coming from the sky. He's in the earth, living as a regular human being. But anyway, I'm going to let you go. May Yah bless you. May Yah be with you. May Yah comfort you on every side. May you see the coming of Yahawah. By Hashem, Yahawashi, Mashiach. Amen. Eternal.